All right, thanks for having me. I'm Sean Kelly. I'm the defensive coordinator here at Quincy University, Division II school in Quincy, Illinois. We compete in the GLVC conference, and I'm going to kind of go over with you guys how to be multiple and single high coverage with simplicity. Here at Quincy, we are a base 4-3 Tampa 2 system. We ran probably right around 35% cover 3 last year. Within that, we mixed in some man as well as some cover 6, and as well as also some blitzes. Most of our blitzing kind of runs right into our cover 3 concepts. So we have a 3 under 3 deep concept that kind of rolls right into our match 3. So, like I said, started off at Quincy as a graduate assistant in 2011, directly out of McKendree University. Graduated there in 2011. Was here GA for about a year. Then got moved to restricted earnings, full-time linebacker coach, then defensive coordinator and recruiting coordinator once our head coach, Coach Bass, got named the head coach in May of 2017. And then I was recently promoted to associate head coach as well in 2019. Got all my contact information up here and my Twitter as well. Is probably a really good way to get a hold of me, both either email or Twitter. 2018, my second year as a coordinator, we ended up being 33rd in the nation pass defense. This year we did a little bit better statistically, and a lot of things that we really try to harp on as a defense. 6th in the nation in TFL, 16th interceptions and 14th in turnovers. Kind of big thing again for us as a defense is we're really trying to make sure that, we're banking everything off turnovers and trying to get the ball back to our offense as much as possible. Throughout my career, I've had 16 all-conference linebackers, coached 3 All-Americans, and the kid I had in 2019 was a Harlan Hill finalist. But moving to defensive line this year, so that'll be a really good challenge as well. For the presentation, guys, I'm going to go over kind of just what our basic defensive philosophy is. Then I'm just going to jump into our cover 3, which is a match 3 coverage. Going to go over kind of how the run fits, and then the match 3 kind of concept and how we talk to our guys and what keys are and everything like that, but also kind of how easily we kind of move in within different rotations and everything to kind of benefit us the best. And I'll kind of jump into that. And then the other thing to me, if you're going to be a big cover 3 team, you got to be good at man. So I want to be able to blend in how we do our man coverage with those rotations and kind of, again, disguise it and make it look the same. To me, if you're doing it really, really well, teams should not be able to tell whether you're in cover 1 or cover 3, and that's necessarily the best case scenario right there. Defensive philosophy wise, biggest thing for us, intimidate our opponents, play a relentless attacking style defense. We really harp on our guys. Hey, we got to run to the football, get 11 passes to the football, and I think the best way to coach that is you have to coach it every single day. You can't just sit there and coach it, and say it in a meeting and then expect it to happen. It has to be something that you grade daily and you get on guys and make it suit. If it's not important to you, it's not going to be important to your kids. So, we give loaf grades every practice. We give loaf grades every game. And, I tell our coaches, hey, if you think it's a loaf, it's a loaf. You got to make sure you mark it down. And we actually mark the exact play number down so those guys can go back and look through and, see what we're going to put as a loaf. The 4 things we really truly try to hit on as a defense, stop the run. I'm not necessarily a big statistics guy. I'm not going to sit here and say our run, our goal every game is to hold a team to, 100 yards rushing. I don't think that's realistic at times because it really depends on who you're playing. You could be playing an air raid or offense and, you're going to get less than 100 yards rushing just because that's what they do. But I do believe in stopping the run because you want to be able to make an offense one-dimensional. And I think that's really, really important to be able to allow you to get in good situations where you can feel like, hey, I'm going to put pressure in this point in time, or be able to put in every different types of disguises and things to mess with that QB's head. Causing forced turnovers. This is something that we really, really, really hit on. We don't actually do a lot of turnover drills or anything, or turnover circuits. The biggest thing that we're always talking about is we incorporate turnovers into just about every single drill that we do as a defense. And then we're always talking about it in practice and scout team and 7-on-7, getting that football back. And the biggest way we do it is, playing with zone eyes, which is where our cover 3 concepts come into play with us. Everything for us is zone eyes and, focused on where that football is going to be. Prevent big plays. Definitely bend but don't break. We're not necessarily going to, especially being a cover 3 team, if you're going to be an offensive coordinator is going to try to hitch us all the way down the field, that would definitely be something that'd probably be pretty effective. But I would also, a lot of guys will say, we'd love to see someone with the patience to do that. I've actually seen a couple guys do that, but our biggest thing is we're going to try to keep everything in front of us and make sure we don't give up the big play. And then situational football, always, you got to be great on 3rd down, 4th down, red zone and goal line. Those are some things that you got to really make sure you rep on and really truly get after it with your guys and give them as much information as possible. So for us at Quincy, what we believe are the benefits of single high coverage allows us to play with a strong box against the run. We'll always have, versus 10 personnel, a 6-man box versus 11 personnel, you got that 7-man box. Linebackers and force players can stack their gaps. I love this, and especially when talking to our safeties and linebackers, they can sit there and stack their gap assignments so they can have an easier read of their triangle, and it puts them in a good position to be able to defeat blocks. Forces tougher throws on the outside, not trying to give up the seams or anything like that with our match 3. I also believe it's easy to disguise between man and zone. Okay, I think if you can do a good job, especially within your game plan and within the technique and everything that you're teaching your guys, hopefully an offense is not going to necessarily know pre-snap, and hopefully at sometimes post-snap, whether you're in man or zone. And then it's great in passing downs with stems that can open up the post. And I'll kind of get into that here in a little bit. So for us, with our cover 3, you kind of see right here, I'll get into in a second, we got all our different roles right here that we can kind of jump into. But I think the one thing that makes it pretty special for us and how we term everything is just right here. Curl, single, curl flat, double hook curl. For us, that's the exact same terminology that we use with our guys at all times. We don't call it a curl flat. We don't call it a hook curl. We call it a single or a double drop. And the big reason is it's fast. It's an easy, but everything behind that is going to give them exactly what their responsibility is. Because the first day when we establish, hey, we're going to run cover 3, or we're going to install cover 3, we're putting up just kind of like what those guys are used to seeing on Madden, just this look right here. Hey, what's it look like when you call cover 3 on Madden? You got the 4 boxes underneath, you got the 3 guys up top, and that's basically exactly what cover 3 is. You guys got 3 guys deep and 4 guys underneath, and that's what we're truly working with. And then we tell them it doesn't necessarily matter who a single player is, who a double player is, or if you're a front side single or backside double player. They all need to be kind of keyed in on what each of those guys' responsibilities is, because there could be a point in time where they could be any of those. We try not to do that as much as possible, especially within a game. But for me, it's the biggest thing on teaching the concept of cover 3. So you can do different looks and you can do different stems and you can do different roles. So you're not necessarily hamstrung to run the exact same thing all the time. So jumping into our cover 3 roles, there's really truly 10 cover 3 roles that we have implicated into our system. This is just the type of roles of what we call them. not necessarily the actual names. All of our cover threes, we like to do a little word association. All of our cover threes start with the letter Z. So I always like to tell the kids, hey, if you're not the smartest kid in the entire world and you're playing corner for us and you hear a Z word, hey, man, there's a pretty dang good chance you're going to have deep third. So a little bit of word association with that, Zumba, Zorro, Zombie, Zelda, Zeus, Zeke, those are all kind of the Z words that we can kind of jump in there and let them know exactly, what that rotation is going to be. But all of these right here, these roles for us are what are built into our actual calls. So, we have our outside roles right up top here, speed and walk. Speed, we're rolling to the passing strength, where all the fast guys are. Walk, it's the exact opposite of speed. We're rolling away from the passing strength. Solid, we're rolling to the tight end or the run strength. And wow, we're rolling away from the tight end or away from the run strength. And then we got SI and WI, so that would be an inside roll for us for sink and wind. And those are both passing strength rolls for us. Then we got stone and water. These are both based off of run strength. We let those guys know because they got T's in them right there. And then we got our sky and cloud, and those are for our hard corners. Like I said, we don't necessarily go into every single game with all 10 of these, but we do have the ability to be able to put one of these into a game plan or have a certain cover three call that has a multitude of a couple of these, one in which I can kind of go over here in a little bit as well. So cover three for us, kind of like I said, we are a match three, cover three. So our underneath coverage, you're going to have the two single players. Those are your curl flat drops. They're a 2-to-1 read, and their run fit is a lane 2 fit. I'm going to kind of jump back into that second to last slide right there. When we talk about lane 2 fit for this guy, we look at this between the number one receiver and the sideline. That's lane 1. So inside him would be lane 2. We always play with the 6 technique unless it's a gigantic passing down. So lane 2 right here would be right here for that guy. His lane 2 will be right here in between the X and the H. Okay. So now that's just kind of an easy way for us to tell those curl flat players, hey, your run fit is lane 2. That's a triangle you need to be looking at. And the way we tell all of our underneath guys, your triangle is the 2 guys in which they're part of your gap right here and here to your backfield. Okay, it makes a triangle. Okay, so you're following that gap wherever it goes, which makes a little bit more sense when we talk about our hook curl players. They're reading that box, A gap, B gap as well. So they're reading these 2 hips of those guys to that tailback, and that's going to tell them where they need to fit in the run game. So that lane 2 for those single players is what I think has been really, really easy for us in trying to get across to those guys what their run fit is like, hey man, you're a single player and you got to fit lane 2. And, hey, if you get into a point where, let's say you get a 3x1 and let's say, this guy comes over here, now that curl flat player, where's my single or where's my lane 2? There's a defensive end right there. His lane 2 is now that next open gap, and it kind of just bumps everyone else over as well. But yeah, so our double players, they're a hook curl. They're a 2 to 3 read. Okay, so they're reading based off of 2 and wherever 3 goes. For those guys, their run fits, for what I tell them, is a 2x2 set. You're going to be a box fit. Okay. You get a 2x2 set, you're going to get a box fit. And for me, telling those guys, majority of our offenses are going to give you either a 2x2 or a 3x1 set, whether it's pre-snap or post-snap. I don't care if you're talking 2 back. I don't care if you're talking 3 back. There's only 5 eligibles that they got. Majority of the time, about 95% of the time, you're either going to get a 2x2 or a 3x1 set. Okay? So I tell those guys as a double player, hey, if you're getting a 2x2 set with two eligibles over here and two eligibles over here, okay, you're going to be able to fit a box fit on your side of the center, okay? And we like to describe it that way because we like to do a lot of stunting in our defense as well. So we're not just going to sit here and say, hey, we're in over and you're always going to have B gap. You know, we might be sticking a defensive end in the B gap or doing different things. So that's where we kind of jump in with that. Once again, giving them something really easy to be able to figure out and giving them the tools to be able to figure that stuff out, you know, without us. If we get a 3x1 set, we tell that double player closest to number 3, he's going to fit off a 3. Okay. If that's a split receiver, if that's a fullback from the backfield, he's fitting off a 3. And if that double player is away from number 3, he's going to be a box fit. Okay. So they're all keying through their triangles in the run game, and that's also going to give them their good pass read. Okay. Over the top coverage, you know, you got your basic middle high safety, who could be either our strong safety or our free safety. And then our corners generally are our deep third players until we get into a little bit of our cloud coverages. But our safeties will always dictate where that role is going to come with a Roger and Louie call. And the way I kind of like to break that up is, you know, when talking to those linebackers, you know, hey, we have an outside roll coming. If I hear Roger, and I'm on the right side, I mean, I already know I'm a double player. If I hear Roger, and I'm on the left outside linebacker, I know I'm a single player. And then I always tell the Mikes, you guys got the easiest job in America because you're welcome. You're always a double player in all of our cover 3s. So those are always dictated with the Roger and Louie calls. And we also use those calls in other coverages as well, mainly our blitz coverages, or anytime we have a safety that's going to be able to fit down. We'll always have those Roger Louie calls, so it's not necessarily to tip off that, hey, they said Roger Louie, we're in cover 3. Going through those different rotations that we have and kind of showing how they can be the exact same, it really truly kind of depends on what type of formation you got. So right here we have wow and walk. So wow is away from the tight end, walk is away from the passing strength. That ends up being our strong safety rolling every single time. Again, seeing here, you got our strong safety, he's rolling down as a single player. Your Sam, which going again back into that lane 2 fits, you know, that's lane 1 right there for him. Lane 2 is right here. That's occupied by our defensive end, which means his lane 2 is right here. Again, he's able to stack that fit. You know, our Sam is a double player. He's away from number 3. That means he's a box fit. Okay, so he's that A gap fit. And then our Mike, he's fitting off a 3 because he's a double player to number 3. Then you got your Raven right here. He's outside fitting lane 2. Okay. Solid and walk. Another, when we get what we call spread, now we have rolling to the tight end and solid, walk, rolling away from the passing strength, away from the fast guys. Okay. Solid and speed. Now we're rolling outside to the tight end or to the passing strength. Okay. And then we have a speed or wow, same type concept. And then we have our inside rolls right down here with wind and water. Wind is based off the passing or away from the passing strength with a WI, weak inside. And then you got water, weak to the tight end right there. So he's rolling there. Sink and stone. This is probably our number 1 inside roll for cover 3 for us. Would either be sink or stone, or we're rolling that free safety on top of number 3. But like I said, guys, this isn't necessarily something, these are our calls. These are just the roles we're telling those guys, like, hey, we're running zombie this week, guys, and zombie is a walk roll, okay? So we're always going to roll away from the passing strength. You know, hey, guys, you know, we're getting a lot of 3x1 sets, you know, so we want to run, you know, we want to drop that safety in from our 2 high shell. We want to drop him in on top of number 3 for the pop pass. So we want to be a sink roll. And we're going to call that zipper this week or something like that. So that's where those guys know exactly what those roles are. And then we tell them, hey, this week, or even if it's a base coverage for us that we've run since day one of fall camp, hey, zombie is weak outside. Zeke is a combo coverage for us in cover 3 where you can, depending on the formation they give us, it gives us the perfect role that we want. And we tell them, hey, man, you get a 2x2 set, we're going to roll zombie. If we get a 3x1, or we're going to roll walk. If we get a 3x1 set, we're going to roll sink. Okay. So then those guys are using that in their communication as the formation comes out. Hey, sink, 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 or walk, 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 walk. But it's all built into that call. So kind of jumping into now our match concepts and how we talk to our underneath players for it. Our curl flat dropper, like I said, the single player, he's a 2-to-1 read, okay? So everything for him is based off of what number 2 does. What I tell these guys, and again, we drill these guys all the same. This is an outside linebacker for us. This is a nickel for us. This is could be a safety, our strong safety or a free safety for us. So we have to make sure all those guys are getting the exact same coaching and hearing the exact same coaching points, but it should be across the board because it's just a single drop for us. So for us in this point, this is our Raven linebacker right here. And again, he has a 2-to-1 read. So what I'm telling him right here is number 2 can do 3 things. He can go vertical, he can go in, he can go out. There's really no other combination that he can do. Even if you want to say he's running a bubble, he's going out, right? Okay? So all those things I'm trying to tell for that guy, those are your possibilities, and this is what we're going to go based off of. So if we do get a vertical release by number 2, we're going to have that Raven or that single player hinge and carry, okay? Which means he's sitting there with his front foot up. He's keying through 2 to the Q, okay? He starts getting a vertical push by number 2. He's going to kick for width. He's going to get 2 kick steps in for width at a 45-degree angle, okay? And the big reason I like him to be able to do that is because now he's set up for an out-breaking route. He can drive an in-breaking route, and now it's easy for him to open up to trail the vertical, okay? All I want him to do on this vertical is be able to trail it, okay? I don't necessarily want him over the top. I definitely don't want that. I want him to trail this and be low hip on this guy, being able to undercut if we get a rocket ball by the Q, okay? For us, the way we look at no seams, no posts, okay, if that quarterback decides to throw this ball through the seam, we should have an undercut player. We should have a corner overlap, which is our tip overthrow, and then we should have a free safety that's going to sit here and be the hammer and the nail. And all we tell him, no seams, no posts, hit him in the kidneys. Okay, so number 2 releases out. He's going to get depth and width. He's also in charge of carrying that wheel. Okay, if he blocks, he gets underneath number 1. And then talking about that hot release of number 3, I'll talk about that here in a second. But again, we want to make sure we do a great job in this match cover 3 concept of staying in between the quarterback and the football, or and the receiver. Okay, staying between the quarterback and the receiver. If he's going to complete to that guy, he's going to have to throw it on a loop, never on a rope. Okay, so now jumping into number 2, releasing out. That's where that single player is getting 2 out. He's going to peak number 1. Okay, this is the biggest thing. You get curl flat, you get out post, anything like that. This is where they're trying to throw it behind that guy's ear. We always tell him, hey, you are a curl flat player first. We will always rally to the flat. We're never going to sit there and try to take away the flat every single time. If that quarterback wants to throw this ball, I'm really excited about that because, A, that's still a long throw. The ball's going to be in the air for a while, and that route is probably at 4 or 5 yards, and we need to be able to sit there and tackle the ball at 4 or 5 yards. So that's why it's super important for him. As he's seeing 2 go out, I need to get my eyes to 1, okay, and my peak, still being able to keep my eyes on the QB and seeing, where's his shoulders, okay? I always tell those guys, if I got shoulders that guy's back or I can see his numbers, I know he's going to throw it. I know he's going to throw it out here. If I have shoulders and I'm looking right at someone's delt right here, I know he's going to be able to throw it either within the seams or to this hook curl area. Okay. So everything for us is based on what's this cue doing, where's his body language showing us, and then when he pulls the pin, how can we get there as fast as possible? Okay. So as he sees two going out, he's still going to peak one. He will end up running through that zone. That Mike linebacker, that double player is going to be in the mix here in a second. We'll go through double players. He'll eventually end up getting there. But if that ball is thrown out, we definitely don't want that to out-leverage us because we want to be able to tackle that with our inside shoulder. Okay? If we get number 2 going in, okay, 2 goes in, we deliver it in, get underneath number 1, okay? Biggest thing right there is we want to make sure we are underneath number 1, never over the top of number 1, because that's where the corner should be. Again, we want to be sandwiching those routes. We got number 2. He's going to block. Okay, we call this our hang buzz drop. And he's going to sit there, check for run pass. Then he's going to go get underneath number 1 until he has anything bringing him out. Okay, so he's just going to get underneath number 1. Again, big coaching point for that single player right there. Stay in between this dude and where that receiver is going to be. Okay, make him throw the ball over top of your body, giving these guys the ability to be able to get over there and make a football play. Okay, now this is the one where we saw a lot of it last year, and I think it's really something that you have to talk about with your guys and really truly define it. And that's the 3 hot. Able to go over this in your game plan about what 3 hot actually is, because I've seen it as a whole bunch of different ways. I've seen 3 hot being a back out of the backfield hitting it right now. I've seen it being an adjuster right here coming out right now. This was the first time this year I actually saw it from a slicing tight end, played against tight end that was a phenomenal athlete. And, you know, I looked at those guys and didn't tell them it was 3 hot pregame, and then saw that guy moving. And that was an adjustment we ended up making so we could be able to come off and not get outflanked by him. So I think you have to do a great job of describing to your guys what you're going to consider 3 hot on film and then repping that so they can be able to see it. But if that single player gets a hot release by number 3, he's released from that carry at number 2. Okay? He's released from that carry at number 2. This corner is going to end up midpointing number 1 and number 2. And then that's going to bring our double player in between the quarterback and that seam ball. Once again, that ball is going to be thrown on this seam that's going over top of his body, but that should widen him out with a 3 hot. Okay. Hook curl players, again, like I said, 3-2 read. Okay. And these guys, I'm really big on talking about their landmarks. Landmarks for those hook curl players. If we're balls middle of the field, it's 2 or 3 yards inside each hash. If you get ball on a hash, the backer or the double player to the boundary is 3 yards off the hash. If you get the backer to the field, his landmark would be middle of the field or goal post. So I'm really, really, truly big on talking about the landmarks for those guys and getting about 12 to 15 yards for them. But they have to do a great job seeing number 3 and working off him to number 2. Okay. So the big thing I tell these guys when talking to them is if I get 3 opening up to me, I want to keep my shoulders as square as I can to the line of scrimmage. Okay. As I keep my shoulders as square as I can, I'm opening it up with him, but I'm also peeking number 2 and making sure I stay in between him and the cue. Okay. If I get number 3 and he opens up away from me, I want to do a slight tilt with my hips towards where he's going, because if something's going away, something's probably coming back. So I want them to be able to see, and it could be that mesh route, it could be a deep dig crosser, anything like that. But now, again, I'm still being able to keep eyes on that QB, understanding where this guy is with small peaks, okay? But now I have my hips tilted this way, which opens up my vision just a little bit more to see a number 3 coming across, okay? Always playing with zone eyes, okay? If I get, a number 3 releases out away from me, number 2's out, I'm going to get to my landmark. Okay, once again, I'm sitting there. I'm always looking for a final 3 coming across. Biggest thing I'm going to look at is what's this quarterback looking at. If this quarterback's looking all the way over here, there's really, truly no reason for me to expand too far out of my zone or really even to the outermost part of my zone. I want to stay on that innermost part of my zone if that quarterback's looking over here, because if he's looking over here, that's where the action's going to be, and that's where that ball's going to end up being thrown. Okay, once that quarterback then progresses through his reads and looks to the other side, that's when I want to start expanding. Okay, and that can be with some type of crosser, but I know I'm in charge of the final 3 to my side. Talking about, again, we get that 3 hot. We're going to get that single player out. That corner's going to midpoint. We're going to stay in between number 2 and the Q and make that ball get pushed as high as possible. We want to be incredibly conscious of the dig, okay? So make sure we do a good drill of seeing this guy once he gets behind me and having him work behind me. Want to make sure I do a good job staying in between that to take care of that void in the zone. Kind of just some quick agility and talking about feet right there for those double players. And then I get a hot, and here's another one, again, still hot release, and then I get that dig. Again, good clip or good slide right there to be able to show him to be able to collision that and still keep eyes on the cue as much as possible. Now here's one where we get number 3. He's going to release out, okay, but it's not necessarily hot. This could be a check release. This could be, a slow running back or something where we can't expect, if this guy's running vertical with him to be able to come off on that and keep leverage, okay? So if I got both 1 and 2 vertical and I get 3 of the flats, I want to carry that all the way, okay? Really, truly haven't seen a whole bunch of this in our 3 years of running it. Probably seen it maybe 3 or 4 times where we've actually got that. We've probably been right 2 or 3 times out of it. Haven't, only seen it thrown, I think, once. Now sitting here talking about, 2 goes underneath, exit to my landmark. Again, don't chase anything underneath. That's the biggest thing you'll fight with young guys, is they always want to drive that. I'm not driving that till the quarterback pulls the pin. Once I see that quarterback pull the pin, that's when I want to start driving it. But the biggest thing on pulling that pin is where's his shoulders at, though, too. Does he have a low shoulder or does he have a high shoulder? And if he has a high shoulder, there's no way I'm driving that underneath route. I want to make sure I'm staying because there's probably something coming back behind me. Okay, if he's sitting there pulling that pin with a low shoulder, yeah, that gives me all the feelings in the world to be able to go crush that or be able to be in a vice tackle with that other double player that should be over here. Okay, but don't cover the no cover zone, which, kind of like what Coach Saban said, 5 yards to the line of scrimmage. No reason to cover that. If that's what they're going to throw, we got to play, based off our zone eyes to be able to knock that out and make them stop throwing mesh routes and little dink and dunk stuff with physicality. For our corners, we like to start all our guys off in a 6x1 off alignment or press bail. We can do a bail pre-snap with 2-to-1 reads as well. But our corners are a 2-to-1 read, but really, truly, we tell them they're 2 through the Q. 2 goes away, eyes to 1. If he knows he's getting 2 away, he knows he's going to have to just basically man up number 1. If he gets 2 out, okay, he's still going to end up necessarily being with number 1 as well. So sitting here with that, 2's vertical for him. We got that number 1 running that outside hitch. That's for him. This is something that we're going to give up unless you have a truly special corner. But we're going to look at that and say that's not necessarily a high statistic throw for those guys. So we'll catch tackle that as well. But but now we still have the carry by the single player and the underneath coverage by our double player as well. And he basically puts himself manned up our number one. Okay, we get number one underneath. Okay, that's telling him he needs to climb to number two. Okay, he's now going to play over top of this route. Okay, again, sitting there for that tip overthrow. That single player is still going to be in that hinge and carry as well. And then this should bring our double player in to this innermost to be able to pass this off to the next double player. Okay, we end up getting a 3 hot, again, which is why we tell him 2 through the queue. Again, we really truly talk to our corners. Again, where's number 3? Is he a true threat to you as possibly being a 3 hot? You know, we talk to our guys a lot about gun weak, gun strong. You know, do I have the back away from me? Do I have the back to me? Those are all big things that we're talking to those guys pre-snap and telling them the key. You know, if I have this, I'm sitting here ready to be able to midpoint 2 verticals, okay? That way, when it happens, I'm not surprised and I don't have to get on my horse. But I know with that curl flat or that single player getting off and being able to keep width and depth on the new number 2, I want to be able to midpoint these, knowing that this is still the longest throw and I need to be the tip overthrow for this seam ball right here. Okay, with our safeties, like I said, our middle high safety, he's your true center fielder. We tell him we want him to line up on the ghost tight end. So if it was a 3x1, a 3x1 set with an attached tight end, he'd line up right on that tight end. Anytime you get like a true 2x2 set with a tight end to one side, we want that safety to line up on the ghost tight end, pretending there would be a tight end to the 2 receiver side. So that's his landmark. And then his biggest thing is no seams, no posts. So he's, depending on the type of athlete that you have back here, we've put him at 15 yards. We've put him at 17 yards. But we always want those guys playing downhill and being able to break downhill as much as possible on any and all balls coming, because, we want them to be the hammer. And their biggest thing is no seams, no posts. For those down safeties and the safeties that are rolling down, like I said, they're taught exactly like our underneath linebackers and nickels. So they're going through those, if they're going to roll in to be a double player, they have that 3-2 read. If they're rolling in down to be a single player, it's an outside roll. There are 2-1 read, and all that teaching is the exact same in the safety room as it is in the linebacker room as well. So our safeties and linebackers at times can be the exact same guy. And there's a couple of our coverages where we have our strong safety and our base cover 3. He rolls all the time, so he's a guy that's necessarily used to that. Our free safety doesn't roll a whole bunch for us. He's more of a change it up type guy for us. So those guys definitely get to work their craft a little bit on certain drills in practice as well. Okay. Bolt, this is kind of how I think, kind of jumping in the man coverage. I'm not going to necessarily kind of go into how we play man or everything, but for me, if you're going to be a big cover 3 team, you have to be really, really good and mix in some man. You can't just sit there and cover 3 the entire time and not have any man concepts. But the biggest thing to me is if you're going to have man concepts, you need to make sure you marry them up with what your cover 3 concepts are. So if you have your number 1 role in cover 3 is a weak outside roll away from the passing strength, then that needs to be what your main man role looks like. If your main cover 3 role is going to be where you're rolling your safety to the speed, that's what your man role needs to look like. Your cover 3 roles and your man roles should look the exact same. Even if you have different cover 3 roles implemented in that game plan, you can have different man coverages that you can kind of jump in and kind of pair up with those. For us, Bolt is a very good complement to Zeke for us. And Zeke, like I said, 2x2 at strong safety rolls. If it was cover 3 and Zeke, he would roll as a single. He rolls be single, double, double, single. Okay. If we get 3x1 and we having a tight end to the box, we ended up switching that up this year to where we just decided we were going to roll weak on that because everyone was moving that guy on us as well. But that's exactly what we ended up doing in our cover 3 and Zeke as well. So it matched up. But I'd say the biggest thing right there, just if you're going to implement cover 3, you need to make sure you have some man to complement it, and your roles need to look the exact same. For us, schematic wise and man coverage, our corners, you guys got number 1, our nickel or our Raven linebacker. He's always going to be manned up on number 2 for us. And then we're going to roll, like I said, if we get a 2-back set, we're going to roll our strong safety down, and we're going to have a trio between our Mike, Sam, and Strong, which is basically some other coaches describe that as in and out. So, he has first out, he has second out, low hole, first out, second out, low hole. And you get something like this, and the first out, second out, then you got your low hole player right here. If we get to a point where it's a true one-back set, and you get him rolled down, manned up on the Y, he's manned up on 2, corner still got number 1, and then we got a Reggie, and they're in and out in that back. Then the guy ends up being a low hole. He's kind of like a wrap player, so he's going to help out with any underneath meshes. And then we have the guy, if he ends up helping out with an underneath mesh, he'll transition from being man to being a low hole player as well. Really, really good concept for if you're getting a high-low opposite or any type of levels passing concept as well. So if you guys have any questions or anything about what we do here at Quincy, or, my contact information is right at the beginning of the presentation, and just let me know if you need anything, and appreciate you guys listening, and, stay safe out there.